Good evening and welcome to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Kevin Everett-Walker, joined with me tonight again, as usual, Matt, Pixie, Carol as well. We're about to kick off week 9, day number 2. It's back-to-back for Flash Wolves. They looked fantastic yesterday, and it's not going to be an easy night for them, but high hopes.
Yeah, high hopes indeed. I mean, when you've already taken down AHQ, yeah, like this is, in a sense, the last set of teams that's really going to test you. And of course, the thing they carry into this, especially this very first one, is in round robin 2, they actually lost to Matchy. They also lost to AHQ that round robin, so, you know, they proved themselves again in round robin 3, and they want to kind of continue that streak, I suppose.
Absolutely. Round robin 3 was their redemption round robin. They made their redemption, of course, got their revenge, and now it's just a path to victory for them. 19-3 is their current scoreline against Blank, 17-4, and Matchy at 11-10. So, the next two contenders, and we talked about this yesterday, it kind of feels like a bit of a queue. You queue up against Flash Wolves, and every time a new competitor comes up, it's just a new competitor from lower and lower in those standings. So Flash Wolves definitely getting the toughest competition out of the way first. Absolutely.
I mean, the only thing that would make that more true would be if it was Blank before Matchy tonight, just in pure standings terms. And even then, Matchy are actually tied for 4th right now with Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are sort of, like we said, the last two teams that are really going to potentially put Flash Wolves through their paces before they hit playoffs. And if either or, in fact, both of these teams struggle tonight, then they're really going to have to turn it around if they are going to want to have a good showing in playoffs.
And it's going to be an important evening for Blank as well. Of course, they're coming off a bit of a losing streak against the top 2 teams, well, the other teams in the top 3 rather. And coming up from last round robin, they copped yet another loss to Flash Wolves. This will be the opportunity to try and get that win back. Of course, they're competing against AHQ to try and overtake AHQ on the standings. And if they can do that, if they can also beat Flash Wolves tonight, there is the opportunity for Blank to perhaps overtake the number 1 spot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Blank, they had a really, really rough run, pretty much all across the second and then third round robins, right? They had a lot of problems and they were really struggling to figure them out. They did feel towards the end of the most recent round robin, they had got a handle on them, had actually started to work them out. And I feel we were actually starting to see that reflected in their performances, the most recent of which was actually at the very end of round robin number 3 against Matchy, who are also up against Flash Wolves tonight. So there's going to be this really interesting point of comparison going on here. And the other thing that we'll see is how much further Blank have then pushed since then, because they are looking to really get back on that horse of continual improvement.
Exactly, and before Blank even hit the stage, it will be, of course, Matchy. This is the team sitting at 4th equal with Hong Kong Attitude. Like you've said, 11-10 is their scoreline. Their hopes for the top 3 are somewhat darted, not mathematically impossible. They would have to go a perfect 7-0, and I believe either Blank or AHQ would have to potentially lose all 7 of their games in this round robin. So it's a big, big ask, but a long journey begins with one step, and that step starts tonight. Matchy, here's a lineup: Cat, known as Kiyomi, DCR1 or D-Crown, No Talk, and Restia.
And Flash Wolves consisting of Zonda, Bacon Jack, Jongi, K, Momo, Sinclair, and Realment, who we saw last night, of course, take down AHQ, who were the other team really pushing for first place, probably their closest contenders, both in terms of score and skill right now. Blank have a few more question marks about them, but there is an argument to be had that maybe actually Blank will have surpassed AHQ by the time those two teams meet, but who's to really say? We'll only find out later on down the line, because Blank, like I said, they've only just got back on their horse, and Flash Wolves never really got off it. Here's a little bit more of an in-depth than Matchy, who, like we said, have really been pushing to make this top 3, and they're kind of relying on one of these 3 teams in the top 3 to have a bit of a fall from grace in this final round robin for their spot to open up, if you will.
And I would say realistically for Matchy, right now in the competition, it's no longer essentially about making that top 3. That fate is no longer necessarily in their own hands. Yes, they would have to get a 7-0. Blank or AHQ would have to go 0-7. For Matchy right now, their goal would be to get these wins off the top teams. If they can beat either Flash Wolves, AHQ, or Blank, that would be a big victory in their books.
It absolutely would. And that's the thing. If you are going to make playoffs, like one of the few ways you can actually do it is by taking out, for example, you know, in among all of your wins, actually also beating 2 of these top 3 teams, and then those teams do need to pick up other losses as well, but that's why this is quite an important matchup for them. And it also means if they aren't able to pull out this win, they would have to pull it out against Blank and or against AHQ. In fact, most likely against both, which is something that they haven't actually done yet.
And pay close attention to some of the hero picks you see on screen from each of these individual players as well. Now, Flash Wolves are becoming a more and more flexible team as well. They haven't really needed to be pushed to use many of their other picks. We've seen a few of the members who have been flexing out. You see Jongi is on that Orisa pick. He did bring that out against Detonator Gold, and also I believe Sun Sister in the previous round robin. So Flash Wolves are definitely sitting at the top of the table in a real literal sense, and also just, I guess, overall, holistically, everything that they're doing looks better than other teams.
And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, the last 2 times I've seen them play AHQ, in fact, the last 3 times, no, sorry, just the last 2 times, because they, the one before that, they actually lost it. So, last 2 times, and AHQ were, of course, the other team closest to contending for that first place spot. Last 2 times, Flash Wolves have looked dominant. They have not given AHQ really any room to breathe, and they've looked just all over them, like they were just constantly one step ahead, and then they've of course gone on to look that way against every other team. Now, I think, like I said, the big difference between that and now, AHQ don't look too different themselves. Blank may be looking a little bit better than they were last time they met Flash Wolves, and I would say Matchy are too. Whether that's good enough to actually challenge Flash Wolves, that's another question, and it's one we're going to answer tonight.
And the first challenge will be laid down, Matchy, of course, the home team this evening, something that's going to hopefully work towards in their favor. They get the first map pick. It is going to be Lijiang Tao. They're also going to get map picks for number 3 and 5 if we make it that far as well. And Flash Wolves on the away side will get the hybrid and escort pick maps 2 and 4.
Yeah, in a way you do hope you make it that far. In another way you hope that you don't, because you hope to 3-0 if you're Matchy. But you know, a 5-game win is a win, no matter how you slice it. So yeah, whatever it happens to be, Matchy just want to get the win really. And Lijiang Tower, not at all unsurprised at this. I mean, we talk about this concept of Lijiang Tower being a bit of a level playing field for a lot of teams, and I really feel like that is the case here. And I would also feel, for Matchy specifically, it's actually a map they're very good on.
And also for Matchy, you know, if we want to look at the history a little bit here as well, this is also the team that, although the result was some time ago, and I know you did actually bring this up earlier, but they're one of the few teams to have ever taken down Flash Wolves in this competition. The other teams being AHQ and Blank. They're the only team out of the top 3 to have beaten Flash Wolves. So they have that going for them. They have the knowledge that they've done this before. It's not an insurmountable task, maybe for a different team that hasn't ever taken a match of Flash Wolves, let alone even maps of a Flash Wolves, which is a tall enough order as it is. But Matchy is a team that has done that before. Yes, it was some time ago, but they have that in their back pocket.
They absolutely do. The only unfortunate thing with that is when they did that, it was the same time that AHQ most recently beat Flash Wolves. And that's the thing, since then, Flash Wolves have kind of pushed it a step up from whatever was happening at that time. It has, though, been a long time, and there is absolutely the potential that Matchy have pushed it that step up as well. But it has to have been a step up since just last week as well, where they lost to Blank. So, look, Matchy, there is a lot riding on this, and they are probably the team with the most to answer for in this coming series.
And I think Flash Wolves remember that series with, I would say, some respect and a little bit of uncomfortableness, you know, discomfort as well, I should probably say, because that match will not have sat well for them, and they will definitely. It kind of lingers in the back of their memories a little bit. It's not something where Flash Wolves can come into this match, I believe, and consider it a guaranteed win or anything like that. They should think that they're favored, and I would believe that Flash Wolves are absolutely favored here, but at no point should Flash Wolves consider this to be a walkover.
Yeah, I mean, it's a classic case of don't believe your own hype, isn't it? And this weekend, as a whole, will probably be the hardest that Flash Wolves will have to prep across this whole round robin. So, aside from playoffs, like I said, this is probably the final test for Flash Wolves as well, because of course they had to prep for AHQ yesterday, immediately go into Matchy and Blank today. And I'd say the only other team at risk of upsetting them right now is Hong Kong Attitude, just because they had a recent upset against AHQ. But this is the test now for Flash Wolves as well. If they can steer themselves fine through this, they are looking ship-shape for playoffs.
Here we go. This is going to be the compositions now. Triple DPS on the lineup for Matchy, and it's going to be the standard 2-2 and 2 for Flash Wolves, something they have essentially mastered in this tournament now.
And both teams just happy to kind of maneuver around the side of the point. Zonda very quick to try and set himself up on this quote-unquote high ground. And Matchy aren't really looking to contest it too hard right now, running a triple DPS out the gate, and now they should be able to push the go button, get the pressure on. Unfortunately, Nona is getting caught out off the side by K-Momo as he tries to go aggressive there. And if you're not quite able to get aggressive quickly with that triple DPS, you end up very quickly stifled, and Flashwolves very aware of how to shut that down, all set up on the point, and now it's on Matchy to, again, try and go aggressive here, put the pressure on and force Flashwolves back. Flashwolves sitting tight, sticking to their guns, and as they open up, there we go, picks out DCR1, and that should take the wind out of the sails for Matchy.
Absolutely, that secures the first cap over for Flashwolves as well. You see the perfect execution of area control that is undertaking the high ground, protected by K-Momo, pushing out Matchy. As soon as Nonez went down, Flashwolves took the area of the cap itself, forced Matchy completely off. DCR1 secured that cap over for Flashwolves. As soon as they got that kill, no more opportunities for Matchy to take that fight again.
And Flashwolves had kind of already taken the ground that Matchy wanted as well. Matchy just a little bit slower to commit to it before that opening skirmish.
There we go. This is going to be the counter-attack, and now for Matchy Esports, nothing really exciting in the bank for them to use. They're going to have to use a support ultimate just to defend themselves against Zonder's tech visors.
Yeah, very quick, but it gets matched by Flashwolves, so they're now, again on the back foot, now fighting into this tech visors. They lose the only tank, and the rest of the DPS now finds themselves very squishy and very exposed, so they all get completely routed out. Did draw out those 2 ultimates from Flashwolves, though, so they can at least be happy with that. They have some of their own coming up for the next push.
Expected result coming out from that fight as well. Flashwolves had the only offensive ultimate to be used. Matchy, despite sitting on 3 DPSs, had no DPSs ults available. They lost Nonez super early. Now losing Kant at the start of this fight as well. They're getting spawn capped at this point, and Flashwolves, this is a comfortable place to be in because they're still sitting on a fair, decent number of ultimates. Bacon Jack, once he hits the false bomb again, should be looking for that pick out.
Yeah, Flashwolves now going to back up a little bit more towards the point. This isn't a super safe comp to spawn camp with, so they are playing this very finely. They're not going to overcommit if it goes pear-shaped, but if they keep getting these picks early on in the fights, they're actually fine staying where they are until Matchy get more ults off the ground.
We're actually sitting at nearly 80% now for Flashwolves. For Matchy, they can't get complacent here. They're still hanging around the spawn and unable to find a way out. They need to actually be able to open up a fight. Now it's going to be the commit from Matchy, but it's late.
Yeah, it is very late, and unfortunately, No Talk unable to save DCR1. Kiyomi getting pressured off as well, and the whole team is just too split up. They had already lost Kant as well. They knew that they had no choice but to go, so they had to kind of go into this 5 versus 6, and couldn't even cover the whole team with that Transcendence. There were only 4 people to catch, and Flashwolves absolutely all over this one. There was no in for Matchy. They're finally going to gun for the point here with DCR1 to at least buy them some overtime, but the Tactical Visor is going to shut out any potential follow-up. No one else will touch the point, and 100-0 for Flashwolves on the first map.
A clean 100-0 as well. I didn't really see any mistakes out of Flashwolves. Maybe someone did something on the side that I wasn't aware of, but as far as the POVs went there, as far as what we saw on screen, pretty much perfect gameplay out of Flashwolves. They set up the area control and the opening fight well, didn't go over aggressive, knew they had less amount of DPSs. You can out-sustain a triple DPS because you have the bonus HP, you have the Div there, you have the Matrix to help you out, and then went for the spawn camp play. And look, Matchy were a bit complacent. They're super slow to get out, kept getting players picked, and eventually they had to just commit even with players down.
The only things that happened in that that were detriment to Flashwolves, they lost K-Momo's mech at one point, and at another point, Kant did land a pulse bomb, which secured a kill. That was it. No further deaths. That is about as clean as it gets.
All right, well, this is going to be a far more open map. So for triple DPS, something a little bit more exciting. This is also where AHQ took their 1 win against Flashwolves on Lee Jung-Tara as well.
Wow, already Kant getting picked off, and by Realment of all people, getting a little bit too aggressive on the side was he. And watch Bacon Jack if you get a chance as well, because you'll see the difference in these traces, just the room they're allowed to get. Meanwhile, Kiyomi sitting up on this high ground is not really doing anything. He's trying to exert backline pressure for the rest of his DPS to go aggressive, but they're just getting shut down when they try and dive. Flashwolves already set up on the point. They took all of the ground, and Matchy were just kind of complicit in ceding it.
Yeah, Matchy were looking for a backline, midline, frontline play there, where their midline got completely shut out. You saw the early kills there coming straight through for Flashwolves, and this is happening a lot quicker now than the previous control center. This should have been a map I would have said was favored for Matchy with triple DPS. They can get the flanks, they can play in the open areas, but unable to. Opening kill from Realman onto Nonez was devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. They finally did get a trade back. Kiyomi, that sort of backline soldier, did pick off Bacon Jack, but look, the respawners come in again anyway, and they're once again on a level playing ground.
Exactly, and so for Flashwolves, still very much in control. You see that there's no real opportunity for them to really snowball fights in the way they did on Control Center. You can't spawn camp the other team, so they have to play a little bit more carefully there. But still, DPSs and tanks, DCR1 is also dying super quick, and this is the difference between 2-2-2 and triple DPS. You cannot out-sustain a 2-2-2 with triple deeps.
And I mean, that fight was kind of over the moment it started because DCR1 did the same thing that Matchy have done this whole time, and they just kind of went in without the right kind of commitment from any of their DPS. It seems that they're just struggling to run this and execute it properly.
And really, I would actually, contrary to what the composition says, is look for a little bit more patience out of Matchy, because you don't need to dive in with DCR1 so quickly without the backline and the mid line with the DPS is helping you out yet. You need everyone coordinated, that they all hit at the exact same time. DCR1 dying, that's a clear sign of miscoordination.
Nonez now trying to go around the side, will at least force Flash Wolves onto the fight. Matchy, though, they're not exactly well coordinated on this point. They're a little bit split up between two halves of the walls, and Zonda still has the ground. No one's been able to contest him with all those defensive ultimates in the way. DCR1 has to use the ultimate just to buy himself some life points, but it's no point. He has to take a dive instead, and Matchy find themselves even worse off than before because now they have no ultimates.
They don't, and this is going to be an attempted spawn camp by Flash Wolves, and they should be playing very close here. You can deny a lot of time and force a lot of desperation out now that we're into the 95+%. Pulse Bomb gets a kill. Nonez has spent more time in the spawn room than actually playing.
And Kant gets headshot out as well by Sinclair. This is as good as done. Someone is clearly contesting the point, but by the time Flash Wolves wheel around and mop them up, Matchy are going to be dead anyway. It doesn't matter, and there it is. A second clean 100-0. Flash Wolves look even better than last night.
Absolutely, and I would also say that not only do Flash Wolves look a bit better, Matchy do not look as clean as AHQ, because look, AHQ at least took a map out. They at least won one of the Lijiang Towers so far, and look, a 2-0 is not saying that Matchy is out yet, but AHQ absolutely put up a much stronger fight. It was only, it was a difficult game for them, but not an impossible one. This is starting to look like an impossible one.
It kind of is, and I feel like there's a bit of a failure to execute on this triple DPS. They are shifting it up a little bit here, assuming that this will be a Pharah out of the gate, and this is something that they are a little bit more comfortable on, at least. But yeah, I feel like the triple DPS just wasn't working out for them.
They need a little bit more, I would say, versatility from Matchy Esports, and this is what's now coming out of them with this Pharah pick.
Yeah, here we go. Going to try and control the skies. Good Kongs doesn't quite catch the knockoff there. They don't quite get what they're looking for. And already Kant getting shut down. There we go. A bit of a trade back, but they've only caught Realman. They really need to get these DPS out. And you can see now K-Momo is actually backed up so that he can protect Zonda as best as he can, which means Zonda is now safe to deal with the flankers rather than having to worry about his positioning versus the Pharah in the skies. Now he can go on the aggressive as the rest of his team is set up on the points now. Matchy a little bit too scattered for this one. Yeah, it does overextend a little bit and Kant gets the pick off, but Nonez can't really contest this point himself, and they're still lacking in the DPS department. Now they have the numbers to try and take the fight, but Flash Wolves will be getting time, and even then, they're not going aggressive quickly enough. They're not getting picks here, and Flash Wolves, if this does break out into a full fight, are still poised to win.
You're absolutely right about that, because actually Matchy, their spawns favor them here. Because their members died early and Zonda died later, their spawns come back first, and they should be able to reinforce them here. Do force the Transcendence out after killing Zhongyi.
That is actually quite good, and good movement there as well by Nonez to get himself back off the point. Has the ultimate available, needs to keep it held down, but kicking Kiyomi means that this Justice finds nothing. And that was a really clever one. K-Momo sent himself up so that the mech would deflect the rockets back into Nonez as the rest of the team had kind of got taken out on the ground. They actually did a good job of backing off for a moment before they got a little bit overcommitted, but then went in a tad too uncoordinated. Flash Wolves pounced on it and they're back in control.
Absolutely, and Flash Wolves had a little bit of a minor hiccup there. That is something we sometimes see out of Zonda. He has been holding that back for some time now, but it is an opening that Matchy need to be able to take advantage of, and I don't think they were quick enough.
There it is again, very aggressive by DCR1, goes down despite the sound barrier as well. Now this tactical visor opening out will clean up whoever is trying to dart for the point. And then the rest of Matchy still split up on the side trying to pressure Zonda, suddenly find themselves out in the open. They're completely exposed. Oh no!
Unintentional suicide?
Yeah, I think he didn't realize Restia couldn't be saved. Oh well.
And you see a big difference here between the true Tracers as well. I know we've talked about Kant coming up as a bit of a player on his own, but in terms of the performance so far, Bacon Jack's barely died. Kant's been picked out time and time again, and that's been one of the unfortunate things for Matchy Esports now, coming up to the 80% mark again. It's just going to be 3 100-0s back-to-back.
Finally, DCR1 gets what he's looking for. He picks Zonda. This is their opening now. They force out another Transcendence from Sinclair, but they already lose Kiyomi. That tempo res was a much-needed tool in case things went awry, and they are starting to go awry now as No Talk forced out of the mech. Barely gets himself back into it. Nonez still doesn't have this rocket barrage. Gonna finally get it back up as Kiyomi has to dart his way back, but Nonez commits to the point a touch too early because he panicked with the overtime. No ultimate available. Now Kiyomi is rushing in to try and get this res off if he so possibly can. Zonda does take a dive, so there's an opening here as they pick Bacon Jack. Now Matchy have an opportunity to turn on the heat. K-Momo does get back into the mech, but they don't have the members to take advantage of the zoning from the self-destruct. Cat gets a pick with the pulse bomb? It is a pulse bomb. I'm so used to calling it the sticky bomb now. And Matchy do find themselves an N on this one.
Yeah, and so there it is. Question answered. Was it going to be another 100-0? It's not. Matchy do get themselves back in there. And they still have a res as well, but they're even losing members at the top of this. This is a really risky situation. Kiyomi might even just he might have to use the res if he's not careful.
He did. He committed it so that they could get the sound barrier out for this fight. But they're not really realizing that Zonda is about to have a tactical visor. Nonez way too far off to the side there, nowhere near his team. They're trying to go aggressive onto Flash Wolves before Flash Wolves are in position. But all they're doing is trickling into Flash Wolves who are set up on the bridge. The tactical visor, it didn't even need to find anyone, but it found Kiyomi anyway, who is still miles away from a res. They'll get the cap back now, and Matchy just kind of handed it back to them there. They didn't need to commit then. They could have just held on to that and committed a rocket barrage at a safer juncture. Now they're going to be trickling in if they can even contest this at all. No ultimate from DCR1.
Instant shutdown.
Justice. Apparently Flash Wolves have committed no crimes. They get off scot-free and there'll be no justice today as they cap the point again, get the overtime ticked down, and that will be a 3-0.
Very soon as well. Matchy final members now coming on, and that last death, well, the last one that sort of made the big difference there was Ristia going down to Sinclair. As soon as he went down, the res committed by Kiyomi. The res was so important for Matchy to hold on to. That was their key. If they had the res at a different time and were able to get a tempo 2 to 3 man res to really bring them up to speed with 6 members again, get the picks out again onto Flash Wolves, that was going to be the opening to continue to fight. But, I mean, a couple of mistakes, it's all you need, and very clever and very well calculated pickouts by Flash Wolves do secure them that 3-0. A big difference so far between these two teams.
Yeah, Matchy did actually make that opening for themselves though, where they did cap the point and then sort of ran with it. So that was actually very well done by them against Flash Wolves, who were really trying their darndest to shut out Matchy completely, and they did up until that point. So it kind of says actually how good that was by Matchy. It wasn't easy to do. They pulled it off, but they weren't quite able to kind of spin it outward from there. And it was a series of misplays, if you will, a series of unfortunate events that had this kind of knock-on, you know, from the res, you know, well, Realman dying to the res, to the sort of awkward commit on the side by Nonez, and then everything was pretty much unwinnable from there, unfortunately, for Matchy.
It was a lot of very difficult situations for them. Now, where Matchy actually did quite well was finding Zonda a couple times. A lot of that was also Zonda himself being a bit overextended, but it does take a good team to be able to take advantage and punish those mistakes. So they did that. Zonda took a fall off the side for one of those deaths as well. So for a time when, for Flash Wolves, where they actually beat Flash Wolves, and this is the key to beating Flash Wolves at all times, is Zonda died, Bacon Jack got picked out straight after that. One of the few times Bacon Jack got picked up, because usually what happens is even if you get Zonda, if you don't get Bacon Jack, he swings the fight back within Flash Wolves' favor. If you get Bacon Jack, you don't get Zonda, he can do the same thing as well. When you get both of them, that's when you've got a winning fight, and that is the only time Matchy actually took a fight and won.
Exactly, and that's the thing, like, they're both players that the moment they have room to play will always get something done, and it's something to the magnitude of, look, even up this fight, even though you've got to pick, possibly even swing it completely back the other way. And what often tends to happen, right? The more you commit to one, the more room you give to the other. And that's just the nature of things. It's hard to commit to both. And I think that's what they were trying to do with that triple DPS. They were wanting to get onto both if they could, keeping Kiyomi back to deal with Bacon Jack the moment he got that extra room while the divers dove. But it just never quite worked. It never really looked quite right. It looked like they were committing in awkward ways at awkward times. Didn't look as coordinated as triple DPS needs to be.
And I want to talk about that coordination as well, because what I noticed out of the coordination from Matchy in particular is when you look at the two pieces of the dive, you have the DPS. In fact, there's 3 pieces. There's a soldier side, which is the back line, the mid line with the Tracer and the Genji, and then the front line with the Winston. Now, 2 out of those 3 would kind of fail at all points, or at least 1 out of those 3. And as soon as one sort of goes down, the pillar goes and the entire structure starts to quite fall there. It was either DCR1 getting picked up quite early, which kind of says to me that the DPSs weren't already there to be able to take advantage. Because DCR1 was there before Nonez and before Kant were able to go, or either Kant or Nonez were picked out super early in fights. And to Nonez, that happened a lot. Nonez, I said on Night Market, I believe, spent more time in the spawn room than he did actually playing the game.
Certainly felt like that, yeah. On that Genji, he did not have an easy run of things. But that's the thing. If that DPS can't even get into position, then yeah, of course it's going to seem like the Winston's just sort of always going in by themselves. And it seemed to be one of 2 things, right? Either the DPS wasn't in position because they were dead, or they weren't in position because they were pressured. What it looked like was DCR1 was going in way too early. What was actually happening is the rest of the team wasn't there because Flash Wolves were really good at shutting them down. And that's the thing we do have to appreciate here is Flash Wolves were, if I'm not mistaken, the first team to beat Blank when they were running triple DPS.
No, AHQ won.
It was AHQ, you're quite right. Flash Wolves beat them immediately after, but the major point there, I suppose, is Blank were running triple DPS at the time. A lot of it. Flash Wolves are now extremely good at shutting down triple DPS. That's exactly what they did just yesterday against AHQ. So that's actually Flash Wolves' skill. It's not straight up, Machi just bad. Flash Wolves know what bits to pick apart to make it look like it's a shambles.
And if I was going to pick apart Flash Wolves a little bit here and sort of tell you why I think they're so good at this is when you really consider their options here, they can play, and I want to compliment the supports because that's kind of a difference maker here because, look, Bacon Jack flanked a lot, he got kills on the side. Cant did the same thing, he died. That's a big difference. And I don't want to say that there's a massive gap between the players. I think there is a gap where Bacon Jack is the better tracer, but I also think something's going wrong when Lucio just kills the tracer like that, and it happens. So I want to compliment the supports, and what I want to say specifically is for Sinclair, if you're going to play the Zen or you're going to play the Ana, one of them, and the Ana is going to give you that better sustain with the Bio Grenade and give you a little bit better peel. The Zen is going to give you better killing power in general with the Discords, and that kind of speaks to why a piece of the 3 DPS dive from Machi was always dead no matter what. Every time they died, someone was dead during that dive. Guaranteed, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side of that, look, Machi just through and through were not getting the same mileage out of the Zenyatta. And it's hard to say that, oh, it just happened because they're bad or anything like that.
But see the moonwalking.
Moonwalking McCree. But yeah, certainly just weren't getting the same mileage there. But yeah, anyway, map pick now for Hybrid. Flash Wolves, they pulled this out last night. Hollywood pulled out against AHQ and looked really good.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little bit of mind games against Blank. It is. It's hard to.
Then they take Blank to Numbani.
Yeah, because it's hard to well, I think Blank actually gets to be. Yeah, well, Flash Wolves,
they do.
Flash Wolves, Blank get to be the away team, so Blank will get the hybrid pick when it's their turn, and Flash Wolves are not going to show the other 3 hybrids here. They're going to choose and say we're going to go for Hollywood, and when we go up against Blank, they're not going to have the intel on the other 3 maps because they're basically banking on the fact that we don't think Blank are going to go Hollywood, so we will go Hollywood and say that.
I think you're quite right, and what gets kind of carried into that is the 2 places that Flash Wolves and Blank have met before have been Kings Row and Numbani. When they last met on Numbani, it was Blank's map, at least that's what we all sort of referred to it as, because they really were untouchable on it. And then it got absolutely stripped away from them, first by AHQ, then by Flash Wolves, and then Flash Wolves, for good measure, went ahead and beat AHQ on Numbani too. So Numbani now really looks like Flash Wolves' map, and you're right, this is very much hiding their potential skill on both Numbani and Kings Row, so that when they come up against Blank, Blank are going to have very little to go off in terms of what to pick, lest they want to maybe go to Hollywood, which they may not have practiced all that much.
Or, Blank can throw the biggest curveball of the tournament so far on the top level and just go straight to Icon Wall, which it's kind of exciting in and of itself.
Yeah, hey man, maybe.
The thing for Blank is you do have to remember they obviously know the smash is coming up. They know they're their wayside. They know they get the hybrid pick. They would have, I would assume anyway, seriously have considered what their map is going to be and then have practiced the hell out of it.
Yeah, well, speaking of practice, we also noted that Flash Wolves have obviously done some prep for Hollywood because they did pull it out against AHQ yesterday. You don't pull out a map against the second place team when you are first, that you are, you don't pull out a particular map just because you're trying to hide strategies from the third place team. So this is also a practice map. This is also a very intentional pick by Flash Wolves because they feel they are very good on it right now. And I think that's really smart as well because Hollywood has been very unfavored by all teams so far. Having this be a pocket pick for playoffs is really significant.
I would say so, and I would also speak to the horizontal, I guess, variety of maps that Flash Wolves can actually play. They've added now Hollywood onto that sort of into the mix. You said before, look, Numbani and Kings Row look like the 2 maps, but it is going to be Hollywood as well, and it is going to be the offensive Sombra and offensive Reaper. Now, we have actually seen this in Apex before. Teams have been running this as a new kind of, I guess it's a new kind of strat composition coming into the attack. Yeah, part of what it's meant to do, especially with the Sombra, is it sort of starves out the defenders, and then with basically the extra pressure you get out of the Reaper, with the health packs not really being there, you put a lot of pressure onto the healers.
And haha, there you've got someone like Kiyomi as well who can go around the back and be picking the heals. Unfortunately, he died, but DCR1 got the work done anyway. And he just kind of pressure out the team. This is that coming to a loggerhead as they pick Realman and Zonda. Jongi goes down as well. K-Momo's out of the mech, and that was really well executed, yeah. There's pretty much nothing left to go on there. DCR1 does kind of get struck back on. Bacon Jack does have room to play with, but he knows he's kind of going into a 1 versus 5 if he really tries to get back onto this point. The spawn does favor Matchy. The EMP is out. Bacon Jack, he did try and buy time for respawns. He did. He was trying to buy time for respawns, but he will get shut out there. And Matchy are well enough set up on this one that they should be fine to hold this one out here and get the cap through.
It was a very well-timed EMP, and that's one of the ways you play EMP as well. You want to combo it with the Death Blossom if possible to deny the shields coming out.
Having a hard time shutting down Jongi here actually gives Flash Wolves enough time to respawn, so maybe Bacon Jack did buy enough crucial seconds because Matchy are actually looking a little worse for wear. You do only have 1 healer in this team comp if you're unable to get to the health packs, and you can't when Flash Wolves are kind of streaming through that room. And Matchy, just by sheer force of not being able to shut down Jongi, the cap does not go through for them. They didn't even get it to the second, third. That's a little heartbreaking.
Well, this is the thing for Matchy is they kind of used all their tools before they, before they really needed to. They went for the EMP, and it kind of, all it did was deny Bacon Jack. And while they got that kill, I mean, Bacon Jack still got a mech and still got Nonez on the Reaper as well during that engagement. So it wasn't super clean for Matchy to start with. And the Flash Wolves, you're absolutely right, because Bacon Jack, when I saw him go back, and I said, look, he is going to be able to get this delay, and that delay will be important. Yeah,
you were completely right. So there you have it. Going to try and set up for it again. Unfortunately lost Kiyomi, but they're waiting for the respawn. This time though, it's a pick onto DCR1, and again, they're just going to have to kind of back off. And now Flash Wolves, despite it getting a little bit close to the cap going over, it's almost like they've reset this defense now, and they're just kind of able to run down the clock.
Yeah, which is very, very costly for Matchy. 1/3 for about 2 minutes and a half. I mean, it is not the best trade in terms of time for objectives so far that you can get. You would have expected a full cap out now from Matchy. They're now also waiting for the EMP plus Death Blossom combo. It would also give them an Earth Shatter to be able to use. So, Matchy setting up very close to that EMP. Nope, okay,
oh, dear.
You just lost your person. You
Great shutdown by Sinclair of all people as well, and like you said, when you're dying to that Zenyatta, something's going wrong. Nonez does have this Death Blossom, but they've got to wait out the self-destruct, and now there's a window while getting back in the mech, but not going to be capitalized on. Unfortunately, kind of pressured off to the side, put to sleep, that's what it was. Great dart for that. Bacon Jack gets a strike back there, sticking Nonez. Matchy do still have enough members here, and Kent will be able to come in with the respawn. He's got the hack onto Bacon Jack, can commit an EMP if he wants, and I believe it will be committed here. It went out, so there you have it. Now they really need to make something happen with this. Jongi's going to have a lot of stall with this ultimate running, and again, they're starting to have a bit of a hard time taking him out. They don't have Nonez back in the fray just yet. Finally arriving at the fight. There's going to be the Death Blossom in the nick of time, and that should be enough to get this cap out. Jongi too low to really keep the contest alive, and now Bacon Jack kind of trickling in. Even with the nano boost, this man is not quite a one Tracer army. Nonez able to retreat to get a bit of health. And yeah, there we go. DCR1 protecting off to the sides of the Bacon Jack. Can't pull anything too fast. Matchy will at last push the cap through.
And the last hack as well onto Bacon Jack just kind of secures that. No shenanigans, no blinking recall sort of stalls coming out. Now Matchy going for a fair little bit of a change up here. Nonez back onto the Genji as well, and Kant going onto the soldier. So the strat does eventually work out, but it was a very close call at the end of the day. It nearly didn't go through because 2 minutes and a half committed. It was only nearly overtime. In fact, it was in the overtime when they actually capped.
I will say that they were very close to doing it on the first push, and they did actually execute that plan quite well, and that's including losing Kiyomi early on. Now the pressure, a little bit tricky here. They do get the trade back on the Bacon Jack at least, and that should give them a bit of room. They do have the sound barrier to give them some legs in this fight as well. Realman yet to commit his own, but Flash Wolves are a little bit split. They kind of don't have a good time, and now picking Realman means that Matchy will get themselves some good room for this payload. Actually catching Sinclair as well. Really good work by Kant to open up the space. Jongi finally gets a trade back, but Matchy will get a good amount of payload distance off this.
All right, let's just double check something really quickly here. I think that pulse bomb got eaten as well. Speak to that in a second, because Flash Wolves, they're actually running a triple support lineup here. Zonda with on the Ana as well. So again, something a little bit new in terms of tech on Hollywood itself. I'm not actually sure that this is the cap that you actually want to run it on. You usually run the triple DPS on the first cap and you don't run it on the second, but could be wrong there also.
Yeah, well, it's going to be the sound barrier out to kind of kick off this fight, and it is going to work so far. It just gives them the space they need. I mean, this comp really relies on Bacon Jack 2 be getting a ton of kills, and I mean, to their credit, that is absolutely working, and you can actually put that nano boost onto Jongi, which is what happened there. We've already seen that happening quite a lot, putting nano boosts on Winston's. I like what's going on here.
60 seconds.
definitely, it's interesting to see Flash Wolves pull this one up because they didn't do this against AHQ, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it is the first time, at least in the OPC, that Flash Wolves are bringing this one. In fact, the first time in the OPC in general, any team has brought this out. So we are seeing a couple of new things on Hollywood today for the Overwatch Pacific Championship.
We absolutely are, and I'll speak to what this kind of means moving on, more so for Blank, but also for the other teams after this game. But right now, Matchy now had the run of ultimates up. They actually are quite close, but they really do need to get a solid fight here. They've got a good bit of positioning, have kind of forced out the ultimate from Sinclair. They've got a moment to press the go button. Nonez commits, finds Zonda. That's a great opening for them now as he's trying to get onto Realman. The Transcendence runs out. Nonez still got plenty of space to open up. If they can all avoid the self-destruct, they should be fine. They only lose Restia, and they're well poised to clear this one up. Jongi going to ult to try and stall out the point, but Bacon Jack found nothing with that pulse bomb. Jongi does get shut out of this when he's not able to get enough mileage, and he's not really contesting the payload, only just back onto it now. Matchy looking set to clean it up, and will get themselves a second point cap.
And if Zonda can't do anything here, that's exactly what's going to happen. A couple of last tanks just trying to just stall this one out. We're already into the overtime, and Flash was very quick to abandon the triple support.
Yeah,
and kind of rightfully so, because Zonda, you do see the lack of damage output. When you take Zonda off a proper DPS, put him onto Ana, it's a staggering difference. And look, for Nonez, one of the few times when he wasn't really contested. Now, where Nonez kind of failed on Lee Jung was he got killed very early. When there's a lack of damage from Flash Wolves, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it is a really strange kind of comp. Like I said, there's more to say about it, but we'll touch on it after the game because, I mean, the game as it is actually sitting quite at an exciting point, actually. Matchy, after kind of barely scraping through that first point, do have a ton of payload distance, more than AHQ actually got yesterday on this map. So Zonda now on this high ground, trying to get pressured off here by Nonez, who actually looks like he's, there we go, the quick meter to take him down, and despite Sinclair going down, they should be able to stop up the cart here. Now Zonda can kind of clean up the rest from his perch, and they are looking set to dig in their heels here. Matchy do not have much time to push it any further.
And this is the standard and classic Flash Wolves formula that they've so well practiced and prepared for. So, you know, again, maybe a case of don't fix what ain't broke. The Flash Wolves, time now running out for Matchy Esports. If you've experimented in the past, it's time to put the nail in the coffin and finish this game if you're Flash Wolves.
Flash Wolves actually ceded a bit of ground there. They've allowed this cart to move maybe a little further than intended, but what they're trying to do here is kind of wrap around the backside. And it's kind of successful because it does force Matchy off the payload. They can't get it much further, and they have to commit to a fight at the right time so they can actually keep it, very early. I think that was maybe just a few seconds early, in fact. A little bit later could have been all the difference, but they do get a good pick onto K-Momo's mech. Here's the open out now from Zonda. It's a good block out actually by DCR1, but he will go down for it. Nonez has to get a huge Dragon Blade here, but he's struggling to find anything. Only got Realment, wasn't able to carry on and commit to Bacon Jack. The self-destruct really gained nothing but distance. If anything, it forced Bacon Jack away from Nonez's Dragon Blade. Now Nonez struggling in this 1v1 against Bacon Jack. They do not have many members left on the cart. The respawn start to favor Flash Wolves here. The clean wipe hasn't got through now as No Talk loses the mech. And Matchy, they're looking like they're going to get slowly beaten back here. Still moments to kind of turn this around as they pressure Zonda, and that could be all they need to turn on the heat now. They have to deal with Jongi. It doesn't quite work. He's too untouchable. K-Momo still has the self-destruct. They can still zone. That's, I think, going to be the commit of that out now. There we go, and it even catches DCR1, and then it all starts to turn sour for Matchy as they get pushed back at the final hurdle. But what a lot of distance they gained.
Even a Bastion coming out from Zonda in the final moments as well. They got a lot of difference. They're not enough distance to actually complete the cap at the end of the day, but it was more than both we expected and also Flash Wolves expected, because for Flash Wolves it almost looked like they were going to get a first cap holdout. The second cap was super shaky from Flash Wolves, so well deserved by Matchy to be able to push that one through and cap it out as well. Well played by them indeed. Third cap though, it is Flash Wolves going back to their tried and true formula, pulling out the big guns, I would probably say, towards the end there, and you see the big difference as well. Zonda going back on Soldier, beats Nonez in that duel, quick melees him in the face, immediately kills Kant from the perch as well, forces Restia back to spawn, and the rest of Matchy, they're already super pressured on time, and the big difference was that first cap, because they only got it in the overtime, and because they didn't get a super clean run through on the streets either. They got the cap over, and they got it, I would say, rather comfortably. It wasn't a one-way street for them. It wasn't super fast either. So the lack of time towards the end was a big detriment for Machi.
Yeah, it really did hurt them. And a lot of that as well was just how much time they lost on the first checkpoint. That's the thing. I mean, the first push, it got them a ton of time. Had it actually got that second, third, I think it would have been a significant amount quicker, not just because you have less time that you need to cap up in total, but it means you can actually risk committing to a 5 versus 6 if you have the pressure down in the right places, which their attacking team comp could have done. Unfortunately, because they didn't have that, they had to wait for respawns to come in. So every time someone got picked, they had to wait, and that ran down a ton of time on the clock.
And this is the thing with playing a setup-based composition. When I say setup-based, I'm talking about, you know, the combo that Machi were looking for there. They needed the EMP to come out. They wanted a Death Blossom as well if they could get there. They wanted to get a fight sort of setup that the composition was trying to do, and you use up a lot of time for that. You use up enough time that if it fails, well, you don't get that many chances for resets, and it's a strength and a weakness because you're setting up for one fight where you do just win it outright, and that should have been the fight earlier on, but BaconJack saved it for Flash Wolves, and that cost Machi a lot of time.
Feels like we're back to normality here now with both teams running a 2-2-2. Opening skirmish should be pretty stock standard, and I do absolutely expect Flash Wolves to actually catch a pick without too much difficulty. Just the sheer nature of the team, and look at this, without any contest really coming in yet. Machi already being pressured back. There is that pick as Jongi is able to dive in. Zonda now comes back to defend against DCR1 so that Sinclair doesn't get picked. Wow. They've still got plenty of room to breathe. Kant finds himself far too overextended because he was trying to go in with DCR1, and then they pick out No Talk as well. That is a clean sweep there. Had Nonez not died so early, the gong would have actually sounded just then, but Flash Wolves are going to cap this with a ton of time on the clock.
And you see Flash Wolves actually, they trapped someone in that sort of upstairs section straight away as well for Machi. It was almost inevitable someone was going to get picked. It's interesting you say it's going to be Flash Wolves just getting the first pick there. It almost sounds so inevitable.
Yeah. And for Machi, it probably feels a little bit that way too. And that's the thing, they actually ceded a ton of ground that they didn't really need to cede if they didn't want to. They had the right kind of comp to sit a little bit further forward, as much as you do want to keep that Ana sat a little back.
See, this is the big difference as well. You know, Flash Wolves, they're not trying to play for any setups here. They're not trying to do any massive wraparounds, play any sort of Sombra-based attacks where you're waiting for EMPs. So just go in, they get the early pickouts, they snowfall fight the old-fashioned way. An old-fashioned sounds looks exactly like what
oh, Sleepy Gorilla, but he does get woken back up. BaconJack wreaking havoc on the side now as the divers find themselves a little bit too deep. Nonez, he can't even deal with Jongi. Jongi went over his head to pick out Kiyomi. That's how rough that must feel there for Nonez. And well, now the payload's still kind of underway. Machi eventually have to commit to this low ground if they want to stop it up anywhere.
It's a tough game for Kiyomi because he died earlier on in that first cap defense as a soldier as well. And it is just, so far, this is what a clean run-through looks like. Flash Wolves get the first cap on cap number 1, super clean, didn't lose any members there. Zonda hugely ahead as well, and barely a contest on streets.
Yeah, already No Talk out of the mech. Nonez rather trying to open up with his visor, but it's getting very well blocked out because guess who does have a mech? It's K-Momo. Now he's forced back, got nothing with that nano visor, and then the pick comes through. They do catch Zonda. They're trying to throw everything they can at this, given that they got that, and they will get Sigler forward. So they may just be able to pull this one out and make it work. No Talk was able to get the mech back as well. The trade back onto Kiyomi probably won't quite be enough, even though BaconJack is BaconJack. But he will have that pulse bomb. He could still get something absolutely crazy. They need to deal with K-Momo quickly, though. And, oh dear, BaconJack closing it out on Kant. Yeah, now they need to be careful not to overextend because they didn't get a clean set of kills. And Flash Wolves respawns are about to come through. They don't have Kant back just yet.
And that's the thing, because Machi do actually have slightly favored respawns here. So for all of the reinforcements going there, both teams committed a lot of ultimates. Neither team really came out ahead. If I was going to pick a winner of that, Machi probably just came out ahead. And that was mainly due to respawns. So Flash Wolves still sitting on a good amount of ults, which means their repush potential here is really high.
And look at this, already positioning around the side. Restia isn't actually with the team. He's on top of this building that you see Flash Wolves kind of fighting around. They picked DCR1. The Lucio needs to be with the team. You needed to get that, that extra bit of healing and the mobility to boot. So the self-destruct doesn't really find anything. And while No Talk's out of the mech, he gets picked out. Flash Wolves, they're just going to say, well, we tripped over a pebble and now let's climb a mountain. They get the payload back underway. Heaps of time on the clock now. And Machi, they're in a really dire situation.
And that's the big difference as well. And Flash Wolves don't even need to push the cart all the way. They have more time than Machi had when they pushed on for cap number 3.
4 times more.
Exactly, 4 times more. And that was all due to the difference between how long it took to cap the first checkpoint.
Absolutely.
Which is why that first checkpoint is the time precedent you set there is extremely important for the rest of the map, and a big difference between the composition, the way the teams played it as well, and what they got out of that in terms of results.
Yeah, I would say actually, as quick as it looked, Matchy's run through streets was only slightly slower than Flash Wolves', so yeah, that did actually all come down to the difference in time in the first point. Now look at how aggressive this is by Flash Wolves. Matchy are actually able to strike back, so this doesn't quite work for Flash Wolves, but they were the ones getting payload distance. Matchy suddenly realized it and had to commit to the low ground play here. Nonez does get a good bit of mileage, at least in terms of forcing positioning, but again, they haven't quite committed to the ground yet. And Flash Wolves, not enough people died. Now they can commit all their ultimates. Matchy has suddenly have to use theirs defensively. They're not getting picks through. Flash Wolves, they're actually about to push this cart through just because Matchy were too busy playing on the high ground. Instead of playing to the objective itself and playing to the cart, the kills will come through now, and Flash Wolves looking set to close this one out with nary a sweat broken.
And that's the difficult thing for Matchy as well, because they had to make a choice. Were they going to contest high ground? Were they not? And they needed to contest high ground. There was no way they don't, because Flash Wolves were packing on very quickly. If Flash Wolves take control of the high ground, they get the flank, they get a good positioning for Zonda, then they can commit to the low ground as well. But realistically, at the end of the day, Matchy, while they held out, Flash was on the high ground. They didn't win that fight. They just sort of made it neutral.
Yeah.
No team could really push through. However, they did forget about the card, and all the three card push at the end of the day didn't make the difference here. And Bacon Jack, I would have given him the play of the game just for the fact that his one delay at the start of the game on the cap number 1, which lost, which lost the fight. That wasn't the delay itself. That was the retake.
You're right, actually.
That was the retake from Flash Wolves, but that was the result. The delay allowed Flash Wolves to get the retake, and the retake cost Matchy so much more time. What should have been a fairly guaranteed cap up for Matchy was not, and so the time was bled down to the overtime, and that made the difference.
Yeah, heck, even on the second one, right, when Matchy actually did push it through, there were moments where it looked really shaky. Once again, they actually lost the tracer right at the top of it. They kind of had no choice but to go. Things did start to go very well from there, but then a couple of things just went a little bit all right. While he was moving to avoid the self-destruct, Nonez found himself in the building and then got slept up. By the time he was back up, they were able to shoot him down before the Death Blossom was there. Suddenly, the rest of the team actually had to hold down the fort long enough for him to come back in, along with the EMP as well. Remember that the Sombra had died quite early as well. So the fact that Matchy would just barely able to hold on is actually a good credit to them during that situation, because Flash Wolves did look like they were maybe about to pull it back, and things did go a little bit rough for Matchy throughout that. But that's the thing, right? They still ended up in that awkward spot where suddenly our Reaper is asleep and our Sombra got picked and we didn't even have a Tracer at the start. So things did go wrong before that as well, and there are still things Matchy need to tidy up before they use that offense again. But I will say, on the whole, better than AHQ yesterday, and that is very huge.
Worse than AHQ on Lijiang, better than AHQ on Hollywood.
Yes,
so,
yes.
You know, a couple of things to consider all around. Now, where Matchy are kind of struggling here is in that particular Tracer matchup. I did touch up on it on Lijiang Tower, but it is getting a little bit more evident now that we've seen Hollywood as well. Big difference here when you see Bacon Jack's output there. He was still making it work for some time during the triple support, like we were kind of mentioning it. A lot of the weight does fall on top of his shoulders for the raw damage output, and he was still getting the job done. When we look at Kant on the other side, he tries to dive Sinclair, immediately shut down, just gets killed straight away. Zonda turns around, looks at him a couple times, drops in 3 headshots. The guy just falls. No recalls, no blinks, no abilities from Kant to be able to even save himself. Kant repeatedly dying on that Tracer position for Matchy, while Bacon Jack was insanely hard to kill and realistically only dying to the EMP, to getting hacked and stuff like that, and maybe towards the end during those massive scuffles right into the overtime. But it is a big difference, and it's a lot of credit, I still say, to the Flash Wolves supports to be able to keep the team alive and also to peel them off.
And there's this interesting thing there as well, because you get this, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, because we saw this beautiful moment of the exact opposite happening as well with Flash Wolves, where they were going for their first point attack. DCR1 saw an opportunity to dive onto the Zenyatta, went straight onto it, had him really within, you know, a half-second's auto attack away from death. Zonda had spotted this, absolutely booked it into the security room, laid down the biotic field, just enough mileage there for the Zenyatta to get the health back up. Discord Orb went straight onto the Winston. They were inside a room, they were all inside the bubble, and then Realman was able to get outside the bubble while Zonda was in it with the heals on him, with the Discord Orb on DCR1 and was able to take out the Winston. So they completely flipped the situation where, a lot of times the support would have straight up died and you would have found yourself without anyone, on your back there. And then turn that into, let's take out their only front line. And that's both team coordination and also opportunity creation. And to do that in just one quick, simple move, split-second decision as well. Like, that's not something that comes from central shot calling. That's just, that's instinct. That's down to the individual player, and that was really, really good play.
And that's the difference there as well. Is I was trying to remember, but I believe Kiyomi was the first one that died on Flashwell's initial push in.
Yeah.
So, it's the fact that you do have the backup there as well, because for DCR1, he went in and he said, I'm going to be the one to shut down Sinclair here, and maybe Zonda along with it. And he probably should have, because the bubble was well placed. Into the security does cut off Zonda and Sinclair pretty quickly.
You're right, yeah.
He didn't.
I think I said
I don't think DCR1 was expecting himself to die there, and you kind of question where his supporting kills were as well, because it was. And
I'll tell you where they were.
Sort of answer that.
They were busy being dealt to by Bacon Jack.
Well, that's the problem. I was going to get to that, because this is what's happening is you can't even keep DCR1 alive because you're barely keeping yourself alive against Bacon Jack. The fact that he can pressure you so hard that you're focused on that front line of Jongi and Bacon Jack as a combo duo that are diving you, while Zonda is safe on their backside, and your divers, namely DCR1 here, again with no real support, you kind of question what Kant was doing that time. You kind of question Nunez as well in a lot of these situations, and we saw this on Lee Jing Tower, but DCR1 goes in. Where's his support?
Yeah, and the counter to that as well is, you said this just a moment ago. When Kant does exactly what Bacon Jack was doing there, he gets killed. He gets killed by the Zenyatta and Lucio, working together. And I mean, that is the skill.
Zonda turns around and just kills him.
That's the other thing as well, and that's a good part of the difference. Is the other thing Bacon Jack actually does. It's not that when he goes on to the healers, there's no one supporting them. It's that he knows when he can go in when there's no one supporting them.
All right, well, we are just gonna go to a short break before we find out what map number 3 is. When we return, it will be Machi's final opportunity to keep themselves in this best of 5 against Flash Wolves. Thank you for staying with us as we're about to head into map number 3 of Machi Esports versus Flash Wolves and their best of 5. We are now joined on the desk by Matt Smite Ross as we're about to break this one down, heading into map 3. It is going to be Temple of Anubis.
I think this is completely unsurprising. To be honest, from Machi, I mean, again, we talk about level playing fields, we talk about neutral territory, and this is really that for Assault right now. More so than Hanamura.
It does actually start to feel like that a little bit in terms of popularity. On a pure anecdotal sort of feel, I would say Temple of Anubis has been picked out a little bit more than so the other maps so far. And I would say as well that it's interesting in this particular matchup that we're not going to Volskaya for either team, because history would say Volskaya was the map where Machi did sort of swing it as well. Machi did take that one some time ago now against Flash Wolves, but Machi have been looking fairly good on that. Also, Flash Wolves do look good on that themselves, so.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit too long ago to really pull up as evidence. And of course, this is a much more dominant looking Flash Wolves at this point in time. So yeah, that neutral territory, I mean, it's the same reason they went to Lijiang over anything else. Yeah. Not that Machi necessarily have a pocket pick for control, mind you, but yeah, not at all surprised to see this. What I would be interested to know is whether either team is going to bother with a Widowmaker.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. If
can't want to see no Widowmaker attack
if
for
they,
once.
well, yeah, it'll be interesting. And if they are, K-Momo will be playing the Widowmaker for the side of Flash Wolves. That, or I would say it's going to have to be Zonda, because usually Flash Wolves are a team that are not likely to actually run the full Widowmaker here, because they do favor the 2-2-2, and running the Widowmaker would put them into a triple DPS situation, which they may not 100% feel comfortable with, but it is something they've done in the past also. But it was also against weaker teams.
Yeah, well, both teams 2-2-2ing, as it were, and Machi going full dive at that, no soldier in sight. See how this works.
Yep, so Machi again.
Bacon Jack,
the attacking team, and if Bacon Jack gets a pick out here, like we said, the inevitability of Flash Wolves getting that first pick out. The early Tracer duel as well.
Kant runs right into him, has to use that recall already, and No Talk is pressured out of the mech. And unfortunately, it's not Bacon Jack who gets that early pick, it is Zonda, but hey, it's expected.
And that's the thing, you see the way Flash Wolves play, Bacon Jack will always be on your back line. The front line will be difficult to break through as well. And it's either a DPS dying early or a tank dying early. And what it kind of means is the tank goes in to try and take down Zonda. Zonda does get the tank back, specifically with that support backup as well, or it's going to be Bacon Jack killing the backline of the other team.
And the thing is there, right? I mean, Kent getting taken by surprise in the way he did, like he thought he was just following up his team, and then suddenly he backs out for a second.
Can't even get that kill.
Walks into Bacon Jack, who's already got a kind of high ground above him. It's this really alarming thing. You're like, how did he even get there? And that's just how good Bacon Jack is at timing these things. Here's going to be a better commit now. Kent does find Sinclair, but
Zonda down.
Yeah, that's a really crucial one. Now, if they can shut out Bacon Jack, they've got an opportunity here. Nonez, though, a little bit low to kind of stick in this one. He's going to have to commit anyway, and he's like half a shot away from dead. I don't believe it. He's going to live. But Flash Wolves, while that's happening, while Nonez is kind of busy around the side hunting for health packs, they were a little bit too shaky, weren't quite able to get the health pools topped off, and they do get beaten back.
I actually don't know why Zonda was there. He left his backline positioning and went directly into the front near this bridge area that Bacon Jack sort of just walked past and paid for it with his life. Now, fortunately, Jongi, he pulled the Primal Rage out, and with Bacon Jack still in the fight, Bacon Jack can always turn it around, which is exactly what happened for Flash Wolves.
Now there's very, again, just quite aggressive maneuvering out of Bacon Jack. This is not at all unexpected. Jongi going very deep with this nano boost on him, as much as Sinclair did get picked while that was happening. DCL1 is going big on the backline, trying to kind of make work happen, but now he's already picked the one person he can. Realman is a bit slippery. Sinclair was already dead, and they found Zonda, so Flash Wolves kind of have this one back on lockdown, and Machi aren't really able to commit to the dive properly again.
And it does seem like Zonda is the pickup for Machi. If they're able to get Zonda down, that's when they can start a little bit of a snowball in their favor. Now, the problem for Machi so far is even if they get Zonda down, they're consistently losing members of their own. There's no situation where they get a clean pick out from Flash Wolves and they do not get traded themselves.
Nonez now going to try and go deep, and he's just in a 1v1 with Zonda. Oh, able to get him down before the Tac Visor finds anyone. That is key, as they will try and duck away from the self-destruct. K-Momo does find one, and Nonez is now getting pressured out. This Transcendence isn't really around enough of the team. There's only 3 members there. Kiyomi is one of them, and they lose Nonez off to the side. Cad's being pressured out. Kiyomi's forced up off to the high ground there. The only one they got in response was K-Momo. And that's the thing, even with all these ultimates, even when they're shutting things down, now they're committing a self-destruct, and they're not really going to gain much for it because their members aren't there.
Zonda's going to come back as a Genji as well. The first one dead from Flash Wolves, the first one to return to the fight. A second Primal Rage into the game now from Jongi as well. The first one we saw was quite devastating against Machi. Under a minute to go. Killing Bacon Jack is a good start. They've got to get Zonda too if they want to win.
It is, but they had also lost No Talk. That's the really harsh thing, and now losing Restia as well. They're getting a good rack of kills through. They need to secure a few more, and Zonda is at least pressured out. They're looking to get K-Momo here, so they are maybe just in position to actually close this one out. They really had to string this one out, though. They had to keep trickling members in, and it was arguably quite a dangerous situation. In fact, I feel like if Zonda had still been on the Soldier here, probably wouldn't be going the way it is, but already he's actually coming back and starting to find picks. They didn't close out on K-Momo or Jongi well enough in time, and the respawns may just come through for Flash Wolves. They might as well commit to this because they can force it to overtime. Kant goes wide on the Pulse Bomb, and Jongi's getting kills in response. They don't have any ultimates built up here. They won't have a Dragon Blade coming out. Kant is dangerously low. There's going to be the takedown from him, and look at how much ultimate charge Zonda has. Guess who is going to get a Dragon Blade? Bacon Jack now might be able to find someone with his Pulse Bomb, and Machi, they don't capitalize. They don't close out. They don't seem to be able to finish the job on the targets. They get low, and they're going to lose another fight for it. They're not even going to get a first point cap through at this rate, and the overtime is going to tick down. That was absolutely heartbreaking to watch.
Kind of the second time as well that we've had to say that about Machi, and how many times can your heart get broken before you learn the lesson?
Well, you just become a hermit.
You can never learn to love again.
No.
That's pretty much the answer from that.
And then when you hit 40, you become a wizard. That's how it happens.
You either become a wizard or you get like 20 cats.
Yeah, 20 cats.
It's really one or the other there. And something I want to point out specifically on the Flash Wolves side is Zonda going onto the Genji pick at the end, and why I think that was important was if he went on the Soldier, I do believe in that sort of chaos of the final fight, there's a good possibility for Zonda to just get killed again. Now, because he was on the Genji, he was a lot more slippery, he was a lot more mobile. He kind of waited. He was just sort of perching a bit. He was waiting for the right moment, charging up the ultimate. We saw that he was up to about 90-something towards the end, just managed to get the Dragon Blade, and that's the big cleanup we were looking for. You mentioned as well, the fight may have gone differently if he was on the Soldier, and I personally think it would have gone differently in a bad way, and it's not a good time for the Soldier to really come out. Your backline is completely broken. Your backline doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
You don't really have that solid support line, so protecting you and your supports are kind of fending for themselves at that rate. So good sort of change up there. And Zonda nearly died. You saw his HP towards the end there, if you noticed. He didn't get killed, which is a big deal. If Zonda went down, that could have still been a different fight as well.
They basically had already committed to going all in on that final fight and, sending members sort of onto the... I mean, often once you kind of lose that fight on that point, a lot of teams just back off because you end up trickling in and you give away an opportunity to snowball, but they had just enough members there, and you're right, at that point, having the Genji there prepped in advance, it wasn't this last-minute switch. They actually had it for quite a little while before that fight ended up in that position. You're right, it ended up being the right thing to do, and he was able to clean up.
What I gotta say, it was a bit of a scary moment for Machi. Unfortunately, all they can get is a bit of a scare against Flash Wolves and not an actual win itself. They're going to have to settle for that if nothing else, because it is going to be the K-Momo Widowmaker as predicted, as foretold in the scriptures.
Yeah, it was foreseen. And he's just going to get straight up onto this high ground. If he does get a pick or two to open this up, it's going to be absolutely gross. Already laying on the pressure, they're going to force the D.Va well back. But now everyone is well in cover, who doesn't quite catch Restia on the fall down on the side.
That would have been a sick headshot.
That would have been absolutely
He did connect with the body shot, so this does force Machi out of position very heavily. You can actually see that now.
Yeah, they're not actually able to contest the Widowmaker on this high ground, which is quite key. And now the rest of the team is able to lay down this pressure because Machi kind of had to seed the positioning on the point itself. They do get a good catch onto Zonda, which means there isn't really enough DPS for Flash Wolves to keep up this pressure. Good pulse bomb does force the mech out, and they do get that one through, but the rest of the team is a little bit in disarray there. Flash Wolves didn't really have enough to continue committing to that fight. Bacon Jack could have held on to that if he wanted.
And the thing is for Flash Wolves, and I said this earlier on Machi's attack, but there is no situation when Machi get a pick on Flash Wolves and Flash Wolves do not get a response. Every single time without fail, Flash Wolves do get a response kill. And Zonda typically, and strangely enough, is the easiest member of Flash Wolves to kill no matter what he's playing. He just is easier to kill than any of the supports, easier to kill than the tanks by far. He should be the target, he is the target, but Machi still loses a member every time.
And this time he is, he has to be a target here, but everyone's a target to him too, so how do you even figure that one? Zonda is getting a good set of damage down. Good set of damage, good amount of damage, that's what it is. Good set of kills too, as he closes out on Nonez as well. And they don't even have to get too much onto this point. The only one they lost there was Bacon Jack, actually. They have the res as well if things go really pear-shaped. Machi are now going to have to book it to this point and trickle in. Here comes the time buy for Restia. Let's see how much he gets. Yeah, the res is still there, that's the thing. Machi, they're trickling in. Not even getting kills at that. They're just trying to buy seconds. It's not going to work. Flash Wolves absolutely smacked them out 3-0.
A beautiful display by Flash Wolves and an unfortunate one by Machi. If there were any doubts, well, those doubts have been quelled about Flash Wolves because this is the final round robin, the final time that Flash Wolves will be facing against Machi Esports. And I would say after this, mathematically, Machi are out of contention for the top three.
Well, hold on. Be careful with your phrasing there. Mathematically, they're in. They may skill-wise not be. Sorry, as in mathematically, they're not out. Like, they're not straight up in, but they may miss. They're not necessarily out. It is still possible. Unlike for some teams right now in the tournament. Standings-wise, there is a world in which they get just enough wins, and there is a world in which Blank or AHQ get just enough losses, but that in itself is unlikely, and that's the reality. It's not mathematically, it's realistically. If they can't pull it out here, they're probably not making playoffs.
And just before we get to Smite as well, one thing again that I just want to touch up on is the fact that, like I said, the best that Machi could have pulled out there was a neutral, sort of even trade. If they get zoned, if they get somebody, they lose somebody. The worst scenario for them is they get cleanly wiped out, which is exactly what happened.
I was just going to jump on the mathematically thing, and at that point now it is actually mathematically impossible for them to get back in. So unfortunately, rest in peace for Machi.
Well, that's assuming that Blank win everything. I mean, that is a fair assumption, but it is assuming.
For Machi to overtake Blank, even at their current wins, they would have to win all 7 matches of this final round robin.
They've already lost one.
They've already lost one. So unfortunately for them, I mean, it's like you guys were saying before, it was realistically not really a thing anyway, so it doesn't really change very much anyway, but it is the final nail in a coffin that was pretty much sealed shut anyway.
If every single nail was there, but the one that would have been the final one, and poetically by Flash Wolves as well, if they haven't got their revenge by now, well, you know, with your enemy 6 feet under, I think that's about it. That's about as much of a revenge as you're going to get.
I think the important thing as well is that, well, Flash Wolves pretty much demolished Machi, and Blank got a pretty similar result, but I don't think it looked anything like that. The closest Machi really got was on Hollywood, and we all remember how long it took them to get that first point. I mean, and you talk about how important that is as well. They got it in overtime that's a lot of time that they didn't get to have on the third point, which is the most important part.
Silver lining wise is great because they got it at all where in overtime.
Take the wins where you can.
They may not have actually gotten that in overtime.
So the thing that happens here now is, I mean, Blank have to look at that and go, how on earth do we crack Flash Wolves? I mean, Blank, they're only just kind of back on this upswing now. And I would say they're working from behind a little bit. First, they had to get back on the horse, and now the horse does actually have to catch up, because while they were doing that, everyone else was improving very rapidly. They are just able to stay ahead of teams like Matchy. That is good news in terms of securing a playoff spot, but can they get back ahead of even AHQ, let alone Flash Wolves? Look, I honestly don't know. Personally, I really don't think so. This next match, this will be the test of that, to be sure. But if they can't do it now, then there's an even bigger crunch to actually do it in time for playoffs. You really have to make that horse work hard, and that's a really tall ask. And that's the other thing that happens here now, and I mentioned this during Hollywood when they pulled out suddenly this strange triple support. You're now Blank looking at the series you're about to play. You don't know what maps they're going to go to because suddenly they've got all this Hollywood and stuff they're pulling out. You don't know what team comps they're going to be running. You don't know anything about this team anymore. There is too much for you to have prepped for while you're also fixing the problems in your own team. This is a really nigh impossible task for them.
It'll be a very difficult one where they've definitely prepared for one they've been quite vocal about as well on their road to potentially making a comeback for Blank that is. So an important one to come up. Before we even get to Blank though, I want to finish off by talking about Matchy a little bit more because they did get that one loss. They're 0-1 so far in the current series in the fourth round robin. They were tied with Hong Kong Attitude, who are yet to play their first match of the fourth round robin now. Being that these two teams are tied, and just by the way, Bacon Jack did pick up the MVP award player of the game. Well deserved on that one. It is, again, it does seem
you can't give it to Jongi.
It's either him or Jongi, and I gotta say, it's pretty well deserved there, but
flip
guys,
a coin.
Hong Kong Attitude versus Matchy so far.
I'm still calling it in favor of Matchy. Even after that, that's hard to compare it because Flash Wolves, they're just like everyone has been saying ever since the start of the end of the third round robin is Flash Wolves look like they're in a league of their own. So I can't really use that performance unless Hong Kong Attitude do something amazing against the Flash Wolves.
Tell you what, I actually put it to Hong Kong Attitude purely because right now I feel that Ting is actually having a bit more success than DCR1. I feel like they're having much more consistent follow-up with their DPS. And I feel like a lot of that comes down to, I would rate Shylin quite close to Bacon Jack when you compare that to really any member of Matchy that does pull out Tracer, because sometimes it's Kant and Kiyomi. I think Shylin trumps them.
Okay, we are going to head into the winner's interview now with Zonda from Flash Wolves, of which I will translate over.
没关系，好像我很介意一样，是不是？不想被访问吗？
不会啊。
是觉得很懒得。
You don't want to be interviewed, Zonda? He says, no, I'm fine.
就偷懒比较舒服。
怎么可以？身为选手不可以偷懒？哎，最近状况很不错哎，闪亮。
You guys look really fantastic today. 3-0, your form looked good.
对啊，还不错啊。
今天一开始来就觉得今天也是必胜的感觉吗？
Do you feel confident coming in?
之前是有一点不太妙。
不太妙，怎么说？
因为我那时候
we weren't
就是喝太多东西，然后
super sure of how we're going to go up against Matchy.
就我
Personally, I drank a lot of liquids.
我想说，哎，再喝一杯茶比较好。
And I thought I'd have a soup and then have another tea after that.
喝汤之后再喝茶。
对啊。
冰的是不是？
对啊，冰的。
Yep, an iced tea, in fact.
不舒服，打之前很想吐。
想说跟队友说，我打可能会。
那时候我还有去厕所，想说要催吐一下。
You know, in the middle of the games, I did actually really want to use the bathroom. So.
所以后来就是开始打之后，就是身体就调试好了，是不是？
没有，就让队友发挥啊，我就摸鱼啊。
什么摸鱼
？Soon as you started playing, did your body sort of turn over? And he says, well, you know, I kind of just had to deal with it.
会觉得很累吗？
We're quite tired after that match.
主要是一个礼拜打，要准备比赛队伍。
We've had to prepare a lot this week.
对你们来讲，其实体力比较消耗。
对。
哦，了解。
因为我们还要坐车。
你在意的点都很奇怪。车程跟车程可以睡觉啊。
You sleep on your way here in the car? It's very difficult to sleep in the car.
毕竟还是在家比较舒服啦。那这边来问一下比赛内容。其实昨天我有在看你们比赛的时候，我就注意到一个蛮想问的，但因为昨天我不在嘛，就是你们在好莱坞的时候第一次是使用了3辅的阵型，在
So you're on Hollywood playing triple support.
我想问一下，就是像这样3辅的阵型，防守方式只有在好莱坞这张图可以用吗？还是其他图这个阵容也是 OK 的
？Do you use it on other maps?
可以，我们有想过控制图也出出看，这样子。
We've been considering using it on other maps as well.
就算了。
所以正式也还没有什么经验可以来试试看。
Do you have this experience in that yet?
上礼拜比赛打完才开始练。
So
我还以为你要说
we
临时
started
想
using this composition after last weekend.
对啊，只练1-2次而已。
就参
觉得
考
We've
韩国
only
那边的
practiced it a
比赛
few times.
对啊，然后刚好我也是会玩这只角色，
对啊，我还在想说为什么安娜是由你负责。
So why are you playing
就
at
我之前
Diana?
有练过一阵子啊。
As I was saying,
因为感觉
I've
队上
practiced
好像
Anna
每次
before.
要什么新角色好像都是你，就你负责非常多。
Are you usually the one that flexes onto the
因
new
为我
picks?
觉得很好玩的角色，很 OP， 我就一定会去练。
所以是你
Yeah,
争取
because
的
I
是因为
quite
刚好
like
就是你喜欢练很
going
多
on these
角
picks
色
and
所以每次队伍有
something
新阵容的时候
I feel like
你就说
better
你可以
OP.
试试看。
就对啊，大部分都是我，
这样
It is
但这样
usually
你会
me
不会
that
觉得
flexes
负担很
over.
大，是你自己是很享受这样子的，
我很享受这样啊，对啊，
觉得可以玩很多支不一样，不会
I
很
like to
腻
play a lot of
Yeah.
different
那
type
今
of
天
picks
在
if I
这个
can.
三府的阵容，我有注意到，在防守第一段你们失手之后，其实照理来讲，好像安娜应该要换掉吧，因为你很后来才换76，所以点被压
So
得
you
很
waited a long time before switching back onto
主
Soldier
要不
after
是我的
Anna.
问题，主要是我们那时候路修大学都没有一直没有机会放出来，就我一直利用我
So
跟和尚的位置去
We were
被
waiting
对方
for
抓
our sound barrier
然
to
后
come
这时
out,
候只要路修教技能的话，我们就可以反打。
and if
所以你
the
不
Lucio gets the ultimate off and survives, we can maybe keep our
然后想
composition.
说那可能是沟通上的问题，我就又换回来。
So we had some communication problems there.
对，
我还想说，
And
你
then
会不会是因为安
afterwards I
娜大
swapped.
绝一直没有放，然后想说
So you didn't
很
get your
可
nano
惜
boost?
所以就一直
哦不会啊，因为这我那个技能就等于是输出的技能了，主要我们还有2个辅助的技能。
所以三府在第2段也还是能打的。
对啊，
So
打
you
到第
can
3段也
play
是可以再继续输。
triple spawn and second 10.
不知道这麦克风。
好了，那这
It says,
样
yeah,
在
we
神
do
庙部分
try it on
刚刚
there
有
as well.
在主播台也在那边讲说，那个夺命女的选择
So you playing
你们
Widow
会有
on Temple of
选择
Nubis?
是要负责这个角色。
主要是夺命女这张图出夺命女的话是不用就太多操作跟沟通的空间。
So you don't need too much communication or support for the
上面
Widowmaker
就是要多
on
沟通
attack.
要操作，所以可能就是给我去做会比较好。
So it
所以言
gives
下
gives
之
me
意
a
是
lot of space to
夺命
work
女比
with.
较不需要操作，你比较重要。
So it's easy to play with the
你
Widow.
站在上面不会有人去抓你，他只要负责按左
It's
键就好。
really
对，
easy
所以
to
原
just
始
put
是
an
重
Anna
点
on
嘛
high
对
ground
原始
on
是
Temple of
那
Nubis
等
attack
下
and
你
leave
现在
her
身体还
there.
好吗？等下打 BL OK，
好，已经好很多了。
不要再喝饮料了。
So you're
好
about to
那
play
我
Blank.
马
How
上
you
把
feeling?
交
Says,
给
yeah,
我们
I'm
的沙
feeling
发去
pretty
进入
good.
更深入的访问
And
咯
we're about to head into what I believe is going to be the couch interview as well. It's going to be with Kiyomi from Machi and Jongi from Flash Wolves.
跟 MV7 的 Kiyomi 跟大家问个好。
好，大家好，我是鸡九。
大家好，我是N7的 Kiyomi。
你又叫自己祭酒，然后上次我们来的时候明明就要帮你证明叫囧吉。
So
我就不
you
喜欢
have sort of
这
two
样叫
names
因为
here.
叫鸡九还是比较有亲切感。
He says, I like to say, I like to call
翻成
myself
台语是智障，所以
Jijong instead
我
of
就喜欢
Jongi.
大家这样叫我。
你这个，我跟你讲，现在聊天是应该刷一片的，
我要扫巴西。
因为你知道祭酒嘛？我刚刚问聂宝，我就说你为什么一直要叫他祭酒
So what do you call yourself then?
他说祭酒是什么？其实他不知道。
And no one really knows.
他才知道说原来这个有一个谐音。不过你如果本人不建议的话，我觉得也没关系，大家也是叫你祭酒也是可以。
没有关系啊，我还蛮喜欢被叫这个称号的，对吧？大家都这样叫我。
对，那
Yeah, a lot of people
你们
call me that
两个
now.
现在是几岁啊？
So how old are you two?
我的话就是2000年出生嘛，然后我是6月，还是16岁。
Jongi says I'm 16.
我1999出生的，10月生的，17岁那边。
Kiyomi says I'm
17
17.
那好像还有另外一个选手也是年纪也蛮小的。
就 HK 的小林啊，他也是2000年，
So HKA Sheldon is 16 as well.
他比较大，我比较小，对吧？
But I'm still the
三个年纪
youngest.
小组成一个团体。
就变成是吧？
So the three of you are the youngest members in the OPC.
对，我觉得你们3个可以组在一起。
The three of you could make a team, says those.
3个年纪最小，但对于你们来讲，我觉得年纪小进入到职业队是你们一直以来梦寐以求的吗？还
So
是它就是
being
你们
youngest players, have you always thought about, have you always wanted to be a professional player?
有啊，其实
I have.
很小的时候就是一个梦想。
When I was much younger, I was always dreaming
打
about
从
that.
娘胎的时候就觉得要当职业选手吗？
国小的时候吧，
国小
I，was very young.
国小哦，那个时间点就有接触一些电竞的一个游戏嘛。
You've been playing games since quite young.
所以进来之后，你觉得跟你想象当中有没有什么变化？
What's the difference between actually doing that now as a job?
台下看的时候感觉比较轻松吧，
在台上打比赛比较轻松，
Uh,
台下，
看人家打，觉得感觉没什么难的。
而且
it's
当
it's relaxing watching other people play.
其实觉得有点烦，有点紧张，对不对？
对，
Instead of playing on stage
我觉得
myself.
手在抖，你看，他一直在，你重击好像台风
是还好啦，因为我上来蛮多次的，所以我已经习惯了。
I've been on stage quite a lot now, so I'm used to
一
it
次上来就
from Jongi.
没讲到什么话，所以就听旁边人讲，然后就 就慢慢习惯嘛。
First time I didn't say much, but now I'm kind of
放
used to
轻
it.
松，然后讲一些干话，然
It's a
后
lot more
大家就
relaxing now.
觉得我还蛮，对吧？可以开放一点。
对啊，这个学长有跟你那个
学弟，学长好
传。授一些经验，上台的一个经验。那当然，对于两位选手来说的话，对于今天的一个比赛，对对方的一个看法，你觉得是
So how did you feel about the other team in today's
你
match?
是打，你是，但你的角色可能会比较多去针对他。
对啊。
那你们两边有什么？
So what did
应
you
该
got
对
to
我
say
仇
to
恨
each
值
other?
很高吧，因为毕竟我每次要开战都是以他为目标嘛。但是
So
他算防得很好的，因
I
为
usually target Kiyomi,
Blank 跟 HQ 的话，
but Kiyomi defends himself quite
就
well.
以和尚的方面来讲，我觉得 Kiyomi 做方面就是比较准。
Out of
然后
AHQ and Blank and Machi, Kiyomi sort of
是也比较稳。
defends himself extremely well compared to the other
有
teams.
点官方说法还是认真的讲。
没有认真，因为每次都要跳，他就是要想很多东西嘛。就是别队的话，就是比较不会压力那么大，因为你跳过去的时候不用想那么多，就踩到了。
When I jump over as Winston, I don't have to
可能
think
每次都
about
要
too
开
much.
大，然后才可以把他杀掉这样。
But he has to think a lot more about that matchup than I do.
他在抓你的时候，你是防御率算蛮高的。
How do you deal with Jongi jumping in?
就一两只还可以吧，就是每次都是培根先来，然后
Usually
就
Bacon
就
comes
后来
first,
跟着跳上来，
and then
就
Jongi
招
jumps in at the same time
挡
afterwards,
不住就死
roughly
就
afterwards,
是等于
and it's
是
very
他们
difficult to
进场
defend
时间
against.
点，包含他或者是贝根杰克都会一同进来激活。
通常是培根先进来会骚扰啊，然后就突然变成季囧跟培根变成一起，
So it goes from a 1v1 into a 2v1 very quickly.
训练室，你有一只那个幸运物，好像是一只柴犬，还蛮大只的。
对吧？
那你今天怎么没有带？会不会是因为你的幸运物今天没有带到现场，所以比赛输掉？
可能是哦。
You didn't bring your
带他来，
哎
the
我
Machi
吓到
stuffed
了
toys
把它
today.
弄死
And he says, yeah,
所以
maybe that's why we
你把它
lost.
当做你
Left them at home.
真正的宠物就对了，怕它淋湿。
然后算我们的对狗了，
对狗啊，这是你个人的还是整个队伍？
整个队伍的。
哦，那你有那个幸运物吗？
我也没有
You have anything like
信物就总大吧，他就是一个吉祥物的代表啊，真的，他那个美女的脸，让我们
美女的脸。
没办法，因为大家都喜欢他嘛，所以他就是我们的吉祥物了。
Zonda's kind of like our mascot. Everyone likes Zonda.
前5大可爱男孩，你觉得？
第一名吗？
对啊，
So
就
you're
前5名啊。
one of the
前
top
5名啊。
5
我觉得应该
cutest
是
players
第
in
一
the
名啊
OPC. What do you think?
对啊
Jongi
立
says,
直的方面
hopefully I can be the number 1.
粒
可爱
子是什么？
可爱
天生丽质。
天生丽质，对他那个皮肤很好。
哦，对啊，对啊，然后脸蛮圆的，蛮可爱的。因为另外一个问题就是，你们现在进入职业也一段时间了，那其实表现也越来越出色。走在路上有没有女粉丝
So you've been
要签你？
a very good team
有这
now.
样的经验？
Do you have many female fans? Do they approach you?
一个都没有。
I don't think I have any.
有，等一下我们那个电竞馆的。
Dennis says, I'm pretty sure we do. I'll
你一定会
prove that to you later.
人生第一个记录。
我是没有啦，因为我在现实
I
上
don't think I have
我本来
any.
就是一个边缘人嘛，所以
我也是，
我出门也是一个人，通常不会有人认识我的，我都是很低
I
调。
don't know if people
不会有
actually
人认识
recognize
我
me.
们
不会说你去那个买个东西，然后刚好，哎呦，你不是闪电
If you go out in public, do people say, "Oh,
如果女生没有的话
are you Jongi from Flash Wolves?" Do you have male fans that do that?
有过一次啊，
I've had one male
只有一
fan
次。
that has
哪有
noticed me in
可能？
public.
没有，因为现在也不常出门了，在台中
But we don't
本来
actually
就是
go out
比
that
较
much.
少会有这种机会。台北的话应该有比较多机会啦，但是因为我们训练是在台中嘛，所以
If we go into Taipei, we have a little bit more chance, but we actually,
男生
our team house is not in
在
Taipei.
路上
有一个啊，可是是认识的，
跟你要电话
I have, but it's someone I already
就
knew.
遇到认识。
那我问一个问题，就是上次其实你比赛那一天好像是母亲节，然后
So last time
应该是
that we saw
OBC
you,
第一次
one of the times we saw you was
家
on
人
Mother's
来
Day,
帮选手加油。
and you had
可
your
能
father
其
there
他
that
的
day.
对选手也有啊，但是我那一天知道是好像来了蛮多人的。那一天你有没有觉得特别感动？
Did you
有啊，那
feel
天
that was a special day?
就是
He says, yes.
就有讲过。
你确定你这个
Last
声
time I-
音大家听得到吗
last time I did
你可以
mention
大声一点。
呃，
你说怎样？感
用报
动？
位的声音讲嘛。
就那天就很感动啊，很感动，家人都带我到场陪我比赛
It。was a very special day for me. My parents were there.
我觉得这个算是还蛮值得鼓励的一件事。那家里面妈妈、爸爸会不会在家里看你们比赛？
So do your parents
爸
watch
是
your
会
matches?
接一个 HDMI，然后用电视来看我们比赛。
My dad
然
watches
后
on TV with an
因为比
HDMI
赛
cable?
太频繁了。他前几次是有自己开车来台北看，然后还有带我
Sometimes he has driven
回
here
就是因
and
为太
watched
累
live
了，
as
所
well.
以就是之后都改在家里，就是看直播。有
But
比
now
赛
it's easy to watch at
所
home.
以家里面你原本是哪边人？
我是新北，有点靠近
新北市
基隆那边，对，蛮远的，所以要对吧？他们就没办法那么平常来。
So yeah, my parents live rather far away, so it's difficult for them to come live.
台南哦。对。所以那一天等于是家里面的人是从台南特地上。
因为他们有事刚好要上台北啊。
哦，不是因为要看你比赛，
就刚好抓到。
刚好
Your parents live quite far away as well,
绕过
Kirby,
来
but
顺便帮
that day,
加油一
this is my
下
parents were sort of on their way to Taipei anyway.
特地来的。
感觉好像是专程为你来，但是其实不是啊，但没有关系啦，真的希望两位年轻选手在未来比赛都能够好好加油。那 Kiyomi 不要
So I
害羞
really
大
like
方
to
一点
like to wish all the best for 2 of the youngest members of the OPC to
好了，那我们跟
keep moving
那
forward
这
and
边观众
do
说
the
拜拜
best.
咯下次见，拜拜。
拜拜。
There you go. So that is Kiyomi and Jongi from Flash Wolves. A couple of interesting things from there. And
Yeah.
just anything to wrap up with, gentlemen?
Oh yeah, it was really interesting actually from Zonda. Soup and then tea. It's the diet of champions.
Iced tea too, not even just
Iced tea,
regular
yeah. Can't have it be hot. You got to balance the hot with the cold.
It's wouldn't be my personal choice right before a very important match either, but you know, it worked for him.
You're gonna
He
play
ended up
with
winning.
excitement.
I think, yeah. Also on Marchi's failure to bring along their mascots, their little plushie toys.
Yeah.
Clearly, the results speak for themselves. So always remember to bring your mascots and your plushies.
All right, well, you mentioned important match, and that is exactly what is going to be coming up next. Flash Wolves now one match further in the lead. Machi unfortunately had to take that loss 3-0. After this break, we are going to have Flash Wolves versus Blank Esports. Is it going to be Flash Wolves continuing their reign of terror, or will Blank Esports from Australia eventually and finally get the revenge they've been waiting for so long? We will see you after this break and find out those results.